Well, welcome back. We continue to look at the PAC, that is whether or not the party will hold true to its commitment to put all its differences aside, the various factions, and be a united front ahead of the May 8 elections. Joining us now in the studio is Narius Moloto, who's the PAC president. Hopefully, at some point, we'll be able to connect to our Pretoria studios to speak to Luthando, Mbinda, as well as Mzwanele, Nyhontso. And we were also hoping to speak to PAC member Alton Mpiti, if that is the correct way of characterizing his role in the PAC. Mr. Moloto, a very good evening to you. And you can see that there is valid reason for the amount of confusion that we, the media, have. As I was speaking to my colleague Elfin Petit about, Abongi Dumako about Elfin Peti's rightful status. It is not yet clear who and how many factions were there in the PAC, and are there still factions, or are you solidified as one unit?
Well, thank you very much, and to the viewers down there. Look, we approached the court thinking that we are going to be heard by the judge, Mavundla, and issue a ruling. And his approach obviously took us by surprise, because he said, look, he wants political settlement, and he wants the parties before him to go and search for a political solution. He gave us time to go and talk. The view is that we should present one PAC going to the 2019
So how genuine,
elections.
how legitimate is this title of one PAC if you were convinced that only the courts could bring you together, only the courts could make you unify around one president? How convinced should you be when you say you are now united?
Now remember, you go to the court not because you want to go to court. You'll be forced to go to court. It's like now we are forced to go to court. But look, out of a crisis, you have an opportunity. So what we got today was an opportunity to talk with a view of getting one PAC going to the 2019 elections. And I think we have made progress. If not, we got that. And I'm happy that now you cannot hear about so many PACs, so many presidents in the PAC.
How many did you end up with eventually? Was it 2? Was it 3? Was it 4?
In the PAC, everybody just left to be PAC.
So how many did you end up with? How many leaders?
After expansions. Now look, we have had, remember we have had expert later, but then he continued to call himself PAC. Mpeti continued to call himself PAC. Basically, there were 2.
There were 4?
No, there were... Okay.
Because you
Mbinda,
also claimed to be the legitimate leader. Mr. Mbinda also,
was
at some point, but he, yes.
Yeah, but I don't think that per se we have had PAC.
Okay.
But I think where we are focusing on is that the agreement, which will be made a court order tomorrow, will enable us to go to the elections, be one PAC, and obviously getting the maximum support of.
All right,
of
let's go to Mr. Mbinda. I believe that Mr. Luthando Mbinda is at our Pretoria studios and ready to talk to us now. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. I think it's a fair question to ask, why should the South African public and even your members believe that the centre will hold this time round? You, at some point, unsuccessfully called for unity.
Good evening. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Mbinda. So what should convince us that the centre is holding now?
No, you need to understand that we have entered into this arrangement just for the sake of elections. And we have also agreed that we need to have to call a Congress within 6 months, where the leadership of the PAC will be contested. See, we were in a situation where we must take a decision whether we must throw PAC into the dustbin of history, or we wanted the PAC at least to be part of the history as it has always been. And then we had to take our egos away, our pride. We have to swallow everything and make sure that we put the PAC first. So that is why now we took this decision. So we will be working together now as the collective. All the people that have been aggrieved will be at least working at least for one PAC.
I'm going to ask you this question, though, Mr. Mbinda. Last year, August, you said ahead of the elective Congress that we are confident now that we are a united force, that we will go into next year as a united force. That didn't happen. Mr. Moloto here was one of those people that said he disagrees with the outcome of that election. And you said, well, if he doesn't agree with it, too bad, we're going to move on without you.
I thought you will say Mr. Mbinda is vindicated because we'll be entering these elections as a united force. You remember, unity is a process. What we were doing last year was to narrow the issues. We had quite a lot of so-called factions. And then now we have lumped them into two. Otherwise, PAC used to have more than two factions. And now we went to this court at least as two factions. And now we are talking about one. So PAC really will be entering into these elections as one. It's exactly what I told you. This is what is happening.
With greatest respect, Mr. Mbinda, this has been said by you and other leaders before, and it's ended up in court, and you've ended up as so many different broken pieces. I'll ask the question again. Why should the South African public believe that the center is now holding? Mr. Moloto here said, we were hoping at least the courts will give us direction, but they asked for a political solution. That sounds to me like desperation to give us a reason to unite.
PAC has always been there. And as the PAC, now we are talking in one voice. So I do not understand why the public would not understand that now at least we will be having one person as a face of the party. This thing was not about what I want or what somebody else wants. We wanted the PAC to be a winner at the end of the day, and this is exactly what has happened today. There will still be court cases like other parties. There will be people who are feeling aggrieved. As you know, that people do have a right to take their all political organizations to court. So that one is a problem that we are going to leave it as long as we are in politics. But what is important now for the members of the PAC and the public is that it's not that we wanted to enter in those kind of arrangement, but we felt that the PAC is more important than all of us. And at the end, we wanted this organization to win. As you know, that the PAC this year will be celebrating its 60th anniversary. So we wanted to attack these elections as one. Okay. That one alone, to me, is a victory for the PAC. Let
me come back to you, Mr. Moloto. Is this also an agreement with people like Mr. Mphahlele? Are they in agreement with the decisions that you've taken?
Remember, Nyhontso, who now become the deputy president, he's basically replaced Mphahlele. So Mphahlele is not featuring anymore.
But as a member who has been party to a number of these court battles, who has differed with many leaders who had taken over before him and after him, surely it is important to get his 100% acquiescence and support.
Look, he's a member, and we spoke, I mean, in court today, and I'm sure with all the leadership of the PAC. I've been in consultation with the leadership of the PAC that had previously led us. And I think we do agree that we need to make progress in uniting the party. So all other former leaders and all members of the party everywhere, I think they will need to rally around the leadership going to the election. Look,
does that also include, because I remember past statements were saying that in your unity you would look at agreeing to a new name, that is the Pan-Africanist movement. Has that been floated? Where are you on that?
No, we're not going there.
You're not going there as in you're not agreeing?
We remain the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, and that will remain. I think what is important is to build and consolidate the party and the structures, and build the leadership at various levels, and make sure that we clean areas that need to be clean and take the party forward.
What do you consider that be? Because some of the pundits who have been looking at the fissures within the PAC have said, you know, really what it comes down to is a jostling for positions. Since the time of Clarence Makwetji, since the defection or the floor crossing of Themba Koti, there's a belief that basically there is no substantive reason for why PAC is divided, but a jostling for power.
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. Well, look, you have individual interest. That goes with individuals within the organization. But since I came and played active role in the party, we've been emphasizing discipline, focus, building the party. And I think we've been successful. Unfortunately, in doing that, we have to get some, what you call backfiring from time to time. But it's not about that. What I think is important, I think the critical or the main weakness of the party has been organizational leadership, and it has also been
so that would point to the
lack of
different personalities.
Discipline. Yeah. The question is that how do you harness all these different characters? Remember, the membership of the PAC is a very difficult membership.
But what are they contesting, those different personalities? Is it ideas? Is it power? This is what we're trying to get down to. What is the reason that has led to up to 4 members of the PAC at the same time calling themselves the legitimate leader of the PAC?
Discipline. But let's not dwell there. Let's go a little bit.
But it's important.
Yeah, I just want to put that into historical perspective. The PAC has been divided for a long time than we are talking about. When it was outside the country, operated outside the country, just the same problem, even in Western, the same problem. So it took time to do so. So if you compare the PAC with itself over a period of time, the PAC is far more better. I think we allow today as a progress towards achieving more greater unity and building a far more solid and progressive party going forward. And we are led to the fact that we need to modernize certain areas of the organization approach, and that is what we'll be working on getting into the future.
Okay, I want to come back to the organizational restructuring, if there is going to be any, but let's go back to some of the agreements that have been reached. So you will be the face of the party going into the elections, but it is that Mr. Mzwanele Nyhontso will be the member of parliament representing the party. And if you do get 1 seat or 2, does that mean that you will then give direction to the line that the party takes in Parliament?
Yes, the party give direction to its deployees, wherever they are. We hope PAC should get quite a lot of seats this time around. But having said that, and we hope to have quite a significant number of seats in Parliament, so there will be a lot of PAC leaders in Parliament. Now, having said that, what is important is the values, what the PAC represent in the political landscape, and what we are able to do to influence our people and the direction and the future of this country.
I'm curious about this. You're saying definitely the party will give direction to its employees in Parliament. That would be Mr. Nyhontso, with whom you have been having quibbles over who the rightful leader is. And some in the parties have actually said, quite frankly, Mr. Nyhontso enjoys more support than Mr. Moloto, and more members are rallying behind Mr. Nyhontso. So how truthful or genuine is this truth that you formed?
Look, I don't want to go there, because if you make an allegation, you must prove it. So we do not necessarily have such a situation, but I don't think it's in the interest of where we are to talk about that.
Okay,
what we know is that the PAC has structures throughout the countries, very disciplined. Now, we are not talking about the selective showing in the television. We are talking about the structure solid coming from the party branches.
Okay, so let me go back to Mr. Mbinda. You, at one point in 2017, had said that the PAC will take over as the ruling government. Your leadership aided, it failed the party in failing to get it there. But just looking at your figures, you've lost quite a lot of membership.
Can you repeat your question?
In 2017, you said that the PAC will take over as the ruling government. But given the fact that you've lost a lot of membership and support, do you think you personally should take responsibility for your role in failing the party? And secondly, the party, has it failed its supporters?
In fact, what I have said is that the PAC has got a strategic plan. And in the strategic plan, we intend to take over, you know, the governing party in 2024. So these are the steps towards taking over the party. We needed to deal with our internal wrangles first. And now that we are dealing with them, then we'll be able to focus in building this organization.
But can you realistically say that with the number of members who've been able to put you in parliament? That one seat.
This is the first step now. You will see that after these elections, there will be a lot of improvement for PAC. PAC is not a 1% party. It's just that PAC, we have been, you know, entangled with all these the internal problems. It's not a one party, and this is what we are working on. That is why we needed at least to deal with these internal issues within the party, internal problems within the party. So this is a right step, or this is a good step in the right direction. So I am confident that the PAC is going to do better than it did.
So let's talk substance here, Mr. Mbinda. How are you going to do better? As I was saying to Mr. Moloto here, that there are those who say it's merely political contestation or power play within the party that got you here to these divisions. And he was saying there are more substantive issues. So what are you going to change? So what are those substantive issues that got you here, and how are you going to deal with them?
The first one is the unity of the PAC, so that all members of the PAC are on board and they vote for their own political party. Because if you go to elections divided, as it has always been the case in the past, then it's exactly what has affected negatively affected the organization. So now that we are united is the first step. And then the second step is for the collective leadership to sit and map a way forward in terms of ensuring that at least we are all over the country. We have structures. In fact, we do have structures. Is that these structures have been divided. And now that they will be united.
Have those structures endorsed the changes that you have made now, the agreement that you have now that will be endorsed by the courts tomorrow? Have they given you their blessing?
It is not going to be an easy, but we are leaders. We need to lead.
So truthfully, we can't really believe.
No. We were in court today, you must remember. And we are busy now communicating with the structures. And we understand that this decision will not go well, more especially to some of the members of the PAC. It's natural, and there will be a reaction. But what is important, you know, for our members to understand is that at this stage, we were only left with two options: to throw PAC in the dustbin of history by not participating in these elections,
okay,
or to just
All right.
protect our egos. So what we have decided is to do away with those egos and those personal interests.
Should they come back to you and say, we don't agree with this agreement that you've drawn up, what next?
How are they supposed to do that? There will be people that will not be happy with the agreement, you see.
What happens
at the same time, obviously people will have to advise us on what we must do in the absence of this arrangement. Having
seen previous and multiple disagreements which have continuously landed you in court, can you 100% say that the PAC is going to the elections united as one party with one leader?
The fact that we have a leadership from all different factions in one room, and they will be participating as the leadership under one president, to me, I mean, it shows that we are united. I don't know what other unity where we should expect, because now Comrade Nyhontso, as the current president for the other faction, is deputizing Narius, who was the president for another faction. Uapa will be the Secretary General, and both myself and Comrade Mpeti will also be participating in this collective leadership.
Thank you very much,
so
Mr.
There is
Mbinda.
no one left out.
Luthando, Mbinda, we're going to leave it there. Just a final word from you, Mr. Moloto. I still have to say, in a word, because you have not consulted your structures, the groundswell of the PAC, should they reject this deal, can you honestly say that you are a united PAC at this point? Yes or no?
Our structures knows that we're in court and that the outcome of the court might be something that they do not necessarily like or reflect. I think under circumstances, our members will believe, we will support. They trust in their leadership. We haven't been having problems with the most disciplined members in trusting in their leadership.
All right, thank you very much, Narius Moloto, who is now going to be the face of the PAC, and you have Mzwanele Nyhontso as the face of the party in Parliament, if all goes according to their unity bid. Let's take you back to Stephen now.
It's a peace hope, thank you. At least